by the West to strike military targets deep inside Russia. The White House said this would cause an escalation, but Zelensky says the war has already escalated, and he accuses Ukraine's allies of sitting on the sidelines.
That is NPR's Joanna Kakissis in Kyiv, the capital of Ukraine. Joanna, thank you so much.
You're welcome, Michelle.
It's Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm Michelle Martin.
And I'm Steve Inskeep.
And I'm Michael Hill. It's 6:50. Marketplace Morning Report is next on WNYC. And later on Morning Edition, wildfires in Oregon this year were devastating for cattle ranchers, but it's not clear when or if they'll get any federal aid.
Quantifying what's your rangeland produce? How much forage did you lose? It's a little different than saying my house is insured for $500,000.
Without help, some ranchers may have to start selling off their herds. We'll have that story in about 15 minutes on WNYC. 49 degrees in the big city right now under partly sunny skies. On our way to a partly sunny day, 59, yes, dry once again, mid-50s overnight. And then election day tomorrow, partly sunny, still dry, a high of 71. It'll be gusty. And then Wednesday, yes, here we go again, mostly sunny and 77 up near 80 and gusty before we cool off.
WNYC supporters include the Yale School of Music, Wednesday, December 4th at 8 p.m. Faculty, fellows, and students present Generations of Music at Yale, featuring chamber music by Chazon, David Lang, Charles Ives, and more. Tickets at carnegiehall.com.
On the next All of It, the new play Fatherland tells the story of a son who turns in his father for participating in the January 6th attack on the Capitol. We'll hear from the play's creator as well as the real-life son who called the FBI on his dad and the actor who plays him. Plus, we'll speak with a journalist who investigated how QAnon conspiracy theories are tearing families apart. I'm Allison Stewart. Join me for All of It weekdays at noon on WNYC.
How to run a local democracy when local coverage is stretched thin.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Betterment, an automated investing platform that helps make it easy to invest. Learn more at Betterment.com. Investing involves risk.
I'm David Brancaccio. First, the biggest event for the U.S. economy this week, yes, the outcome of tomorrow, but arguably the second most economically consequential calendar item of the week. The Federal Reserve meets on jobs, growth, and inflation with a decision on lowering interest rates on Thursday. Marketplace's Nancy Marshall-Genzer is following the Fed for us.
The Fed's interest rate meetings usually start on a Tuesday with a Wednesday press conference, but this week's meeting was pushed back a day to avoid the election. At the Fed's press conference this Thursday, Chair Jerome Powell is expected to announce a 0.25 percentage point interest rate cut. The central bank is trying to get rates back down to more normal levels after pushing them up over the past couple of years to cool the economy and tamp down inflation. The Fed's favorite measure of inflation, the Personal Consumption Expenditures Price Index, is still above its 2% target, but not by much, and inflation has slowed. That gives the Fed room to continue cutting rates. I'm Nancy Marshall-Genzer for Marketplace.
S&P futures are up 0.2%. Dow and NASDAQ futures are up 0.1%. The S&P is up nearly 21% year to date. The NASDAQ up 24%. Halloween season, now election season. It somehow seems out of sync with this November the 4th to talk about year-end holiday shopping, but a consumer survey by Bankrate found that about half of respondents started holiday shopping before November even rolled in, and some of that has to do not with the holiday spirit, but with business inventory management. Marketplace's Kaylee Wells has that.
There's the short-term answer and the long-term answer. Short-term, Thanksgiving is late this year, so the traditional holiday season is shorter. Analyst Sky Canavis with eMarketer also says this year companies bought holiday inventory early
as part of their planning for the potential port strikes. And once retailers have inventory on hand, they might as well start trying to move it.
because they don't want to risk having stuff left over in January. Dana Olson, who teaches retail marketing at Indiana University, says the long-term answer harkens back to the pandemic when supply chain issues created a sense of urgency and scarcity.
And we were told that as customers, if you want to buy this item, you better buy it now because we might not get it back in stock.
And the pandemic eroded the Black Friday traditions too. Retailing professor Patricia Huddleston at Michigan State University says now those deals can just happen earlier.
In order to continue to get consumers to shop, retailers will offer discounts or special pricing or sometimes limited edition products too, because that will bring people in.
She says the earlier, longer holiday season is likely here to stay, but she doesn't expect it to get much earlier than September. That season still belongs to summer vacations and back to school shopping. I'm Kaylee Wells for Marketplace.
All the restaurants will stay open and running, but TGI Fridays has filed for bankruptcy protection for a subset of its locations. The company blames mostly COVID-19, which put paid to happy hour culture. The filing came not on Friday, but Saturday. This is TGI Fridays, Inc., which runs about a quarter of the restaurants here and abroad.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Progressive. Progressive Commercial Auto Insurance protects the cars, trucks, and vans that work to keep small businesses moving forward, including protection while running errands and other tasks. More at progressivecommercial.com. And by Schwab. Schwab offers investors choices like full-service wealth management, self-directed investing options, and trading on Thinkorswim. More at schwab.com.
The latest report from Northwestern University Medill on the state or the plight of local news in America finds more counties, 208 of them now, are without a legit source of local news. In the last year, 127 newspapers have closed. The number is up to 3,200 in just under 20 years. Some of this is the internet and social media. Some of it is corporate consolidation, often far-flung companies buying up local news sources and then cutting. In Wyoming, 3 big firms own half the local newspapers, and staffing isn't what it used to be. Wyoming Public Radio's Melody Edwards looked at one community.
Back in April, Sublette County, Wyoming made headlines when a local man brought a wolf into a bar, muzzled and injured. He'd purposefully run over it with a snowmobile and later killed it. Hunting wolves is legal in most of Wyoming, but many saw it as animal cruelty, and it was immediately an international story. Callie O'Hare, editor of the local Pinedale Roundup, says she was so busy covering other events that other media beat her to it. She's made up for lost time.
We've covered it in great detail, and I've been boots on the ground for that.
Her publisher is News Media Corporation, which owns more than 150 publications in 5 states. The company laid off both of her reporters last winter. Since then, O'Hare's been running the 120-year-old weekly newspaper by herself. The company didn't respond to numerous requests for comment. O'Hare says she really wished she'd had an editor for such a major story.
It does make me nervous not having another set of eyes reading over my stuff. So I tend to read over it until I'm cross-eyed.
It was an important and ongoing local story, too. When protesters came to town against the treatment of the wolf, they clashed with residents. And O'Hare felt threatened.
I want to have a conversation about what happened. I went to that protest with a gun on my hip, a knife in my pocket.
When local news contracts, it creates a vacuum.
That's Steve Waldman, the president of the media advocacy group Rebuild Local News. Waldman says studies show real harm to communities from the collapse of local journalism, especially in rural areas.
People don't have the information they need to decide who to vote for or to know what's going on at their school.
And even when legacy papers do survive, they often turn into what Waldman calls a ghost paper.
It's still printing, it still has words and some pictures, but it is cut way back on local reporting.
O'Hare is fighting to keep the Pinedale Roundup from becoming a ghost paper. She's still covering the wolf story as the state decides whether to take action. And she's still covering things like the Little League.
Because, of course, now I'm a sports reporter, too. I pay the bills to keep the lights on, and the rent, the gas, the trash.
And she does it all for $41,000 a year. In Pinedale, Wyoming, I'm Melody Edwards for Marketplace.
You can also check out my voyages to local newsless places. Search our election year series, Democracy in the Desert, at Marketplace Online. I'm David Brancaccio with our morning report. From APM, American Public Media.